I actually said I was going to reveal a little bit more on why I started counting differently. And I looked up because I was doing a big ritual and I was stuck in a hard place with some bets and some gambling and things of that nature that I've been doing. And I was stuck in a rock in a hard place and I needed a one to drop. So I was like, I'm gonna just put together this ritual, do this video, and boom, it happened yesterday. So I want to thank everyone that watched the video yesterday about why I started counting differently. And if you haven't checked that video out, it's a couple videos back. And basically what I'm just breaking down on that video is that I just started looking at different scenarios as like a problem, right? And I would turn these scenarios into an equation or a formula and then solve it on paper or in my head or whatever first, and then go out and play it out. And this started for me it simply started. It sounds very complex, and it is kind of complex, but it simply started for me counting instead of just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 just going up, but learning that it's certain brackets in between various different numbers we start counting in this system that I'm speaking of. So I just want to thank everyone for, participating, and watching that video. Go back and check out that video. I'm going to come out with a little more information and going into the various different brackets and helping you to understand the different brackets and the different points of going into different dimensions when you're counting, because that's really eventually what we'll go into and we'll visit is that when you begin to count, essentially what you're doing is that once you get into certain intervals, meaning that you got like 1, 2, 3, then it's a break, then it's 4, 5, 6, then it's a break. So things in a count happen in what's called threes, essentially in this count. And that's essentially what happens or whatever. So when you get to a certain level in this count, there's what's called a bracket. And then at that point, and this is with any count, you can do this with any scenario, there's what's called a bracket, right? And you have to use this bracket. And in this bracket, this is when on a spiritual level, you move into different dimensions. And on a mathematical level, on this bracket, this is when you move into what's called letters, of course. I mean, you guys know what that is. So like on this bracket level, this is when you get into like assigning letters to numbers. See, they don't teach this part in the numerology school. They just go into A is 1, B is 2. This happens on a certain level, on a certain bracket. This equates and this formula transfers or transforms on a certain bracket. And that's what they don't necessarily teach in numerology. And that's kind of what I started doing readings on and started designing formulas on based on the name that a person was born with. And I came up with this particular science, and it's pretty accurate. And like I said, I'm using it for bets now, and that's a little bit more complex, I'm not going to lie, but just proof, 1 to 0 binary code drop with the Golden Knights, very expensive one, believe it or not, that dropped. And I'll go into that too eventually, what the 1 to 0 binary code actually is. It's just when you see a sport event, if it's 1 to 0, it's major. It's always major because this represents a computer reset. So we'll talk more about all of that in the future. Thank you guys for participating. All the donations to 13signastrology@gmail.com via PayPal. And I'm your Master of Ceremony, Imhotep. And as always, stay vigilant.